Hello! Welcome to part 2 of the Mingling of Souls discussion. Today we're discussing chapters 3 and 4, and today Chris is here. So I have to tell you guys an amazing story, and Trevor can vouch for this. After everyone left, like literally it was 8:30 or 9:30, 8:30 Central, and everyone logged off, and the last like 4 people logged off, and I was like, "Hey Trevor, stay a minute, I want to talk to you because we're friends, we were going to catch up." And as soon as the last person besides Trevor disconnected, Chris signed in, like right then. I was like, "Did you do that on purpose?" He was like, "No." "Are you still recording?" I said, "No." But literally, we just stopped. I mean, I hit stop, everyone disconnected, and then Chris signed in. It was like something from a movie. I'm not even kidding. It was ridiculous, but great.
Yeah, it was really weird on my end because I sign in and then everyone just starts laughing hysterically. And I know I'm funny and all, but yes.
Yeah. If you're watching on YouTube, I am paying attention to the YouTube comments this time. We had some technical difficulties with that. So there is about a 30 seconds to minute delay, but I will be checking on those throughout the course of the event.
Oh, sweet. People are watching live. That's cool.
Yeah, we have one viewer, so I don't know who that is.
What's up?
Tell us who you are. Tell us who you are. I'm trying to see. Okay. I'm trying to make sure you're watching the event. Oh no, Chris abandoned us again.
Yeah.
Who? Me?
No, different. K Chris. Crystal K. Yeah.
I keep
Alright,
all over people's faces to get names.
Yeah, so pretty much everyone's here from last time. We're missing 1 or 2, but hopefully they're watching or can pop in here later. They all got same group got invited, a few extras, and we're only at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So three more feeds can join us. So if you want to join us, go ahead. So if everyone can introduce themselves, I'll go first, and then maybe Chris, and then we'll just kind of go around. This is my wife, Rachel. Your turn, Chris.
Oh, my turn. My apologies. I didn't know in what order we were going. I am Chris, and my wife may or may not float in throughout the night. Her name is Stephanie.
She's gonna fix our heresy if we say something wrong.
What?
She's gonna fix all of our little heresies if we say something wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how we want to do this. I want to say from like left to right, but like I don't think we all see the same thing at the bottom.
Yeah.
So Trevor, you want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Trevor. Nice to meet you.
Laramie, you want to introduce your family?
Yes, Laramie Gilden. This is Devin Gilden, my wife. And this is Mr. Oliver, our first and only so far. Hopefully first of many.
Yeah, Lord willing. Fill that quiver.
Man.
Kyle?
I'm Kyle. This is my wife, Kara.
Both with K's.
Both with K.
And Andrew?
Hi, my name's Andrew. Yeah.
Well
Andrew's awesome. I've met Andrew. He's fantastic. And Amanda.
Hi, Amanda. Cornelius of the Cornelius clan.
Is Chad out working tonight?
No, he's here.
Oh.
Hi,
Good.
Chad.
Hi, Chad.
Hi, Chad.
And that's our eldest. She's going to bed.
Oh, bye, Ava.
Oh.
Say hi.
Oh.
Good night.
Say bye. Do nothing.
We're shy.
We're Or
Say, I am not shy. I am a brave person.
No, she'll full on say, I'm being shy.
That's fantastic. So brief overview of the first couple of chapters before we dive into the new one, right? He introduces the point of the book. Who remembers what the purpose of the book was? I wrote it down. I cheated.
Yeah,
Wasn't
the
it
intro.
to establish the... Ah, dang it. Oh, I'm not furiously going back to the first page. What are you talking about?
That's allowed. You can look at the book. I do. When I sound like I'm quoting, like just from memory, I'm actually just reading the book or reading my notes. So I'm not that good.
Is it on the front or the back?
I think it's the first page.
It's in the introduction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right at the beginning, like the first or second page.
I still
That one.
haven't read the introduction.
I was about to say, did you read that one?
So he says this. He says, the sheer amount of confusion, heartbreak, and fear that I have witnessed at the village church in regard to romantic relationships and sex provides my primary motivation for writing this book. So he writes the book, and he goes over this in the introduction more fully. The whole purpose of the book is to help people sort through the confusion, basically, around sex and dating and that lifestyle. Because really no one knows how to do it. There's not really very many good books about it. And he saw a need, and he decided to try to fill it. So then chapter 1 is attraction. That was an interesting chapter. Would you guys say he's for being attracted to your spouse?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
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 Good. We all remember. I thought the interesting thing about his thing about attraction, again, just as a brief recap, is attraction, he says, isn't just looking at someone and being like, oh, I'm super attracted to you, you're really pretty. That's part of it, but then there's actually a deeper level of attraction to the person beyond just how they look. And then in chapter 2, he talks about dating. Mostly he talks kind of, well, he says a lot about dating. Just kind of about what you should look for in the person you date, kind of how dating starts. He talks about kind of the destructiveness of sexual, casual sex and kind of the current culture. Well, just kind of sleep with whoever, whenever. You can shake hands, say hello, or kind of sleep with someone, right? And he talks about what to look for when you start dating someone. Do they reciprocate your feelings? Is the relationship life-giving? Is it safe? And is there purity there? And is there a promise of a future? Are they likely to be... Is this someone who's dating you for the long haul? Then we get into chapter 3, courtship. And this is where we're going to start. So courtship. Who read chapters 3 and or 4?
We did.
We did.
I did.
Oh wow, everybody. Has anybody not read? Caught up.
We read it.
I read part of it to him, but we didn't
Yeah.
read it.
Oh nice. Nice.
Read the
Good,
last half of
teamwork.
chapter 4 in the car on the way home. So
Oh, very cool. That's allowed. So what did you guys think? What did you guys think about his talk about courtship as opposed to dating?
See, I really liked it. I'd never heard courtship explained this way. So, because he incorporates, he talks about dating and then he talks about courtship. So you're dating a person to see if there's someone you'd be willing to take the time with to marry them, to see if you'd like to marry them. And then you get into that stage where, okay, now we're going to dig deeper and really pull out the issues and really see if that's an absolute yes. And that's essentially a lot of the advice I've given people. So I like where he's going with this.
Nice. What did he? What about the rest of you guys? What do you think about his differentiating, or who can say how he differentiates dating and courting?
One in part of the chapter, he did say that courtship was defined as like, oh crap, I wrote it down. Courtship is the engaged to be engaged step.
Oh yeah.
And I like the way he worded that. I like the way that it's like, I want to marry you. In a way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's more than just we're dating or getting to know each other. I think maybe this could be the person I want to marry.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So he talks more of this in the second chapter, but I think it's a good place to start. He talks about the one. What does he think about the one?
There's not one person for every person. It's kind of your choice. Once you've chosen to court someone, you've made that decision to enter into a covenantal relationship. But
I thought that he put it really well when he was talking about the one and how if one wrong person in somewhere in history had married the wrong person, the whole system crumbles, and now you're always going to have these mismatches, and so just the idea of the one doesn't really make sense, even when you just look at it from a logical perspective as well. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Walt
Disney lied to you guys. That's
exactly
really what he's saying.
What does Disney know about marriage? Nothing at all.
I like how he talked about his wife being the one because she was the one that said yes when he asked.
Yeah.
So that was the one for him.
Yeah. I think the Bible would endorse that. The one you marry is the one. And he does talk about this idea of completion, right? The one is the one who will complete me, and if I find the one, I'll be complete. And a lot of Christians believe in that, which shocks me.
Yeah.
Only one thing can complete me, and that's God.
Right.
And I'm incomplete, and I'm marrying an incomplete person. And so, it's gonna go bad if you think another person can complete you.
Yes, those are horrible expectations.
Yeah. So he gets deep, though. He gets deep into this idea of courtship and this idea of figuring out, is this a person I want to marry? And he talks about this idea of diving into your past, your present, your future, the things you hope to do, and then talking deeply about the things in your past that were really painful. So here's a question. Well, and I can go first if no one else wants to. Did you do this? Like, the kind of courting he talks about, where you really dive deep into each other's lives? Did you guys, those who are married, did you do this? And for those who are single, who've had maybe more serious relationships, have you ever experienced something like this?
Well, Kara and I were talking after we finished the chapter that it was kind of funny. We wouldn't have told you we were courting at the time, but we definitely had those kind of conversations about the past, about what we want out of the future, as we realized that our relationship was getting closer and closer to leading to marriage. But at the time, we just felt it was part of dating, and we didn't really think of it as another level past dating, you know what I'm saying? So it was really interesting to read about his differentiation, because now we would look back and say, oh yeah, we were definitely in the courtship phase of our relationship, but at the time we wouldn't have thought that.
I hadn't really heard the definition of courting quite explained like he did. I wouldn't have known to call it that, but I definitely think that we did those things. We had those talks. We got to know each other on a deeper level before we got married.
Okay. That's a really good differentiation, I think, that he makes, too, between dating and courtship. I think most people just cram those together. But definitely the differentiation is super helpful. Like, oh, okay, I can see that.
Yeah, we were in kind of the same boat, Steph and I, and it was funny. We started premarital counseling before we got engaged, and my pastor who was counseling us, he told us, "You guys aren't dating, you're mutual reconnaissancing." That's what he called it. So is exactly how he explains it. You're diving in, you're getting to know each other, and I like how he explains it as it's not as it's dirty. It's like it's hard. It's not fun and fluffy and easy.
Yep.
And full of emotion. It's like you're digging the dirt out of each other, and then realizing, hey, I love you despite this. I'm sticking around even though I know the crazy side of you. And that's the conclusion that we came to, and that's why I proposed.
Nice.
That's a good way to put it. Digging the dirt out of each other.
Yeah.
Because at times that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely not always easy to have those conversations about your past and things like that, and see if they're still going to be willing to stick around after they find that stuff out about you. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has that heartbreaking line, right, about what happens when you open up and the person decides not to stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's rough.
But I like how he kind of coupled that with, like, how much better does it feel when that person does decide to stick around? Like, after you've had those people decide that it wasn't worth it to them, like, it really shows you, like, how committed that person is to you when they do stick around.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's definitely the ideal. Hey Laramie, did you guys have any of those talks before you got married?
Oh yeah, we I mean, we like I said last week, we were 29 and 30 when we started dating, so we had kind of already been through I guess the ringer in a sense, as far as hits and misses, and then even when we got together, we had some misses, between us, but God restored it for us, and we got through it. And I think after everything that we went through, since we had actually hit rock bottom as a couple, it brought out all the dirtiness, all the dirt that we had, more so me, and but I mean, we both, it's a 50-50 thing, so like we both had our issues, and I think the type of people we are, they kind of brought it out of each other, I guess, so in a sense, we ended up talking about it. We went through counseling with our pastors and through an actual, I guess she's a therapist even, we went to any and everybody we could, and it was really, after having everything taken away, and God's like all we have left, like people say it's all you need, but it's true, once you hit bottom and you see the hope that's in Him, and that's only in Him, like nothing else matters, and then we truly saw each other as a gift, because past salvation, we're not promised anything, and the fact that we were able to go through all that stuff and make it on the other end was only a testament to how good God was to us, and so after that, it was that was why we had such a short engagement, we were just like, if we can make it through this, there's no stopping us now,
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, it's been the most I guess marriage has been like the most humbling and trying and rewarding thing, that I've ever experienced in life, and now we have our son, which is just added to that, and it's been great,
That's awesome. How about you guys, Chad and Amanda? I know you have a bit of a unique story. Did you get to talk? Did you dive in before you got married?
Accidentally.
Catch the foxes?
Accidentally.
Yeah. I don't know. We had this funny little saying called the lockbox. So like when you've got a secret or something like that, like it's a lockbox. So still like 6 years into our marriage, once in a while I remember something like, oh man, there was this weird thing that happened. Lockbox. It's like secret that I haven't told anybody, but you get to know because you're my favorite person in the world, and you need to know these things about me. But we got married in a hurry, like 10 months start to finish, from like, hey, my name's Chad, to like, yeah, we're married now.
I think it was 11 months.
Okay.
But it'll be what? Yeah, 11. It'll be 11 months when we got. But yeah, we dove in a lot. We had no sense of like what Christian courting was. So anything that we did, I feel like from my perspective, it was a lot of like tell him just enough to like be honest, but not enough to scare him away. And a whole whack of things probably came out of the first year of our marriages.
Well, even before we were married, though, like there were some court cases and stuff that came up, and
No, that was after.
oh, I have no concept of time. That was after.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was some for sure. There's some communication, but a lot of stuff came out after.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot too. I mean, I grew up an unbeliever, so there was a whole lot of stuff there that I had to put on the table, and he accepted that. And
Well, all I knew, like going into the like relationship with Amanda, is that like I need to be pursuing somebody that I can marry. And I, even after hearing about some of Amanda's shenanigans, I was still determined to marry her and not waste my time just pointlessly dating. So I, like a young, excited 18-year-old, I just pursued foolhardily, and it was the best. So.
Yeah. Oh, our story is like I feel like we had really good premarital counseling, and I feel like we had a lot of really good discussions. But I would say most of our junk came out after we were married, like within the first like 3 years of marriage. And like I said, I feel like we had really good premarital counseling.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that we had been able to kind of work through and not carry with us, but then there was a lot of stuff that we were both carrying. There was a lot of baggage that we both kind of had to go through in the first year that affected each other a lot, and so really had to work through a lot of that stuff the first year. And so that's, you know, a lot of the tension and struggle and all those things kind of came out of that. So
Yeah.
So even though we talked about a lot of things, I don't think that either one of us really expected those things to still affect each other in the way that they did. And so that was a unique challenge, because that was something I don't think that we were quite prepared for. Like, I don't know that even in premarital counseling there was really a lot of discussion over like, okay, you guys have talked about these things that you've gone through. Now let's talk about what it's going to look like for you to be actively, you know, encouraging each other in Christ in these things. There really wasn't a lot of focus on that, so I don't know if that's normally supposed to be in there or not, but
Well,
so
we didn't really have a church when we were dating.
that's true.
Like we kind of we had a weird situation. So that was a big part of it, and that leads kind of my next thought. So he talks about catching the foxes, you know, like dealing with the issues and kind of serving each other as Christians. But he talks about it as like there's a third party involved, like right, help us catch the foxes.
I love that.
Too. But it also makes me sad because we definitely didn't have that. Do you? And this would be a good one for the singles, especially, to participate in, as well as the married. Did you, for those who are single, do you have that structure in your life, like people who are going to help you think through these things and work through those issues and serve you and your future spouse? And for those who are married, did you have those people in your life, and have you kind of gotten them, people like you can trust who serve and support you, and like a good church that you're really a part of and can be open with?
Not everyone at once now.
I'm just gonna say yes. I have them in my life, and they're there for that reason.
Yeah, so you got godly people who will counsel you and encourage you and help you kind of deal with your stuff.
Yes, and are more than willing to call me out. More than willing.
How about you, Andrew?
I am in the process of getting that actually set up in my life a little bit. I've had a very interesting last 8-9 months, and so I'm still kind of getting plugged into my church that I'm currently at, and yeah, so I'm working on that right now. I just got plugged into a discipleship group this week, so that's really cool. It's me and 3 other guys who just meet and talk about life, what we're struggling with, encourage each other, that kind of stuff. So, really cool to be a part of that. And then I've got like small groups and stuff like that that I'm getting involved in as well. So, it's cool. It's good and it's getting there, you know.
Are any of those married guys, or are they all single, or what does that look like?
Okay, so my discipleship group, there's 4 of us total. 2 of them are married, and then there's 2 single guys in it as well. And then my city group consists of, I'd say like 75% married couples, most of which with kids. So it's really good. I mean, it's really good community that I'm in. My church believes in solidified community, so that there's not a division between singles and marrieds and older people and college age. So it's really cool because they believe, and I completely agree with them, that married people have obviously things to give to single people, and single people have things they can give to married people. And so we're all in this kind of together, and it's cool.
Good, cool.
Sounds kind of like this really inclusive marriage group I'm part of. We like to hear from the single people too.
That's awesome. Oh. I thought you were talking about a church.
Yeah, I was thinking about it even just yesterday. We were talking with the pastor at our church, and he was saying, oh yeah, after I get done meeting with you guys, I'm going to go be talking with one of the young men who's really interested in a girl, and he wants some advice, and I've been doing some counseling with him. And it's so weird in Texas to hear someone like a pastor saying, I'm going to be mentoring someone, in a relationship that they're having. Like, it's just not very common that relationships go very deep or very personal, and so it's just cool to see that happening. And I'm like, man, that young man is very smart. Like, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a weird position now because we're in a weird position. We just we're switching churches, and we're still kind of finding our foothold there. And it's hard because we live right next to Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale. So nobody's going to plant a church near Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale. So it's hard to find a community close to us that's reformed and solid, and their theology is on point. And so we're still working that out. And then with my health issues, sometimes it's hard to get up in the morning. Sometimes I'm lazy, but yeah, we're still getting that community. And I mean, Alex right now is my accountability, and pretty much everyone who listens to our podcast, because I just come out and say when I suck as a husband. So yeah,
I'm here for you. I hope the others are. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think God has opened up things like the Reform Pub and the Rugged Marriage to help fill some of those holes. Not that I think it's a replacement for the local church at all.
Oh no.
But as a way to encourage one another and share with one another and to lead each other into maybe finding those issues and working through those issues. I think it's a really good thing. Sorry, I just looked at my note at the next point because I'm really interested to hear the stories on this one. Mother-in-law.
Oh gosh.
I love what he says about the mother-in-law. Let me find the page because he says it so much better than I ever could. Oh man, it's way in there. Oh, did I not write it? Anyway, he talks about how mother-in-laws don't really want to give up their place. And
Isn't that chapter 4 though? Are you jumping
it
ahead
the
to chapter
chapter?
4 now?
Oh, I am. Oops.
Yeah, chapter 4.
Oops. Sorry. Parental blessing then. You're right. That is chapter 4. Sorry.
But we
Sure,
still want to talk about mother.
We do. We'll get there. Sorry. I skipped ahead. Oops. So here's the big thing. Here's the thing Riley talks about the most, and it's this idea of not waking up love before it's time. So here's a question. What do you guys think about that? Right? Like this idea of basically not having sex before you're actually covenantally married by the church and by the state.
I think it's heresy.
I don't know. I think it's great.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to talk about it.
Okay. So
Like,
maybe
Who would possibly say that it's a good thing?
yeah, but maybe a better way to take it is how do you do it? Like I know Rachel and I we didn't have sex before we were married, but we got pretty dang close a couple times. Like, there were some serious moments of temptation where like one of us would just shut it down. And so how do you do it? If you're single, how do you do it?
Never
How do
be
you- how do you-
alone.
Yeah,
Never, ever, ever.
don't be alone. Definitely.
Don't trust yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure the mother-in-law is around.
Right?
Just kidding. That didn't stop us.
Isn't that the worst advice though, single guys? Like, isn't that the worst thing to hear? You're like, never ever be alone. Well, how do we get to our date? Like, what do I have to do when I pick her up?
Yeah.
Right? And don't you have the desire to say like, well, we got to be alone sometimes, right?
Mm-mm.
Well, it's easy too because in our hearts we're going to make excuses for ourselves to be able to do the things that we desire if we're not pursuing to honor God in our relationship first and foremost, if we just want to pursue ourselves like our own desires. So, which ultimately isn't going to be leading towards a good marriage anyway, if that's where we start out at. But yeah.
Well, and he even
I would agree with it. Don't be alone.
some of those things, and that you're going to justify like, well, we're already engaged, or we're only a couple weeks away from being, I mean, and those are dangerous thoughts to have for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One,
I would say maybe no alone time that's idle. Like definitely go to do things where maybe you're alone, you have privacy, because you need to be able to talk about private things without other people hearing. But definitely we got into trouble having idle, watching a movie together with no supervision in the dark kind of thing, or yeah. So.
I love his comment in the book about that. He's like, nothing ever goes good when two couples meet at night at someone's house to watch a movie.
Yeah.
That's never a holy experience.
Yeah.
At least not when you're dating. When you're married, you do it all the time.
No. Well, and the two pieces, and this is one thing that I've been seeing more, that the couples that I see that have really consistent relationships in their lives and accountability set for themselves, and the people who are in their lives are asking them the questions okay, so, I know you guys are going to see each other tonight, are you going to walk her out to the car and then you guys are going to be all, all over each other, or are you going to, let her leave and treat her with respect since she's not your wife yet, and things like that. So, there's two pieces where there's, the body that encourages each other to live a holy life and to honor God and before marriage, and then the boundaries that we have in our own hearts, I guess, because we're so easily distracted when it comes to sexual things.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're playing with our dog.
Yeah, he's going to bark really loud if we don't. One of the things I like is he says on the very last page, he says, men, you should lead the way by apologizing to your woman, asking for her forgiveness, and promising to pursue her heart in godly ways. It's never too late to repent and start anew by God's grace. Do you feel like as men, maybe you did that well when you were dating? And for you single guys, do you feel like when you are dating that you do that well? That you lead in holiness and pursue a woman's heart in a godly way?
Well, I definitely started repenting like halfway through reading that. And then I got to that point, I was like, beat you to it, Matt. But yeah, I definitely I had to pull my wife aside and apologize. I was really convicted in this chapter because we failed big time. I mean, there's probably a lot more I'll discuss about that on the cast. But yeah, we came out of some rough spots, and yeah, it was a huge struggle for us, and we failed miserably. And it's definitely impacted our marriage, and we've definitely had to, learn what that means for our marriage, and learn what sex means for our marriage. But it's been, I mean, we've had a lot of growth through it. We've had a lot of renewal from it, and it's still tough. But I don't know. Reading this, I just felt really convicted. Spent a lot of time in prayer afterwards, and yeah, I still feel like I was kind of dreading this a little bit because I know I was like, I'm gonna have I was so strongly convicted that I'm like, I can't just not say anything about it. So.
Yeah, I'd say for us too. I mean, well, I guess but I'll put it on me. I failed miserably as well. And once everything came crashing down for us, and then I really saw her for who she was, as God's gift to me. And if I had any hope in being a good husband, it needed to start while we were courting. And so at first, going from failing, to remain pure and all that in our relationship, to being pure, it was difficult because you're already used to each other and stuff like that. And after everything we went through, it almost sinfully it felt like a way to make up, and but I made it a point to basically rebuke her when she tried to make advances towards me, because it was hard, and I didn't want to hold her hand.
Like kissing, hand holding.
But yeah, I didn't even want to kiss her or hug her too long, or I was when she was leaving, I wanted to just shake her hand and tell her goodbye, because it's difficult, and it was funny because through the whole our engagement, it was only 3 months, or 2.5, something like that. 3 months. So it wasn't like it was like a 10-month or 2-year, 3-year thing, but it was still difficult, seeing each other every day, and there was really no accountability as far as I had a roommate who didn't really mind. And I had my pastor and a few other guys who I'd have to answer to later on, but there was no one just immediately there to where, if 10, 15 minutes slipped by where no one knew about anything was going on, something could have happened. But it was just being mindful of who God had given me and honoring that. And everything turned out fine. But it was kind of funny. I told her this later on, but I remember even like wedding night, I was so focused on turning that part of me off, just basically dying to that. I was like, man, how is this gonna be once we get married? Because I was so used to trying to not be turned off by her, but trying to just
flip that switch off.
Yeah, just keep it off. And but God's good, so.
It was easier than you thought, huh?
Yeah.
God's grace provides.
Yeah.
Well, Laramie, I'm glad you said. I'm glad you brought up that it was you, because it was reading this book that I realized that it was me that failed as a leader.
Right.
And it wasn't I can't I don't think it's fair to put the blame equally on both of us.
Right.
And that's that kind of goes into like complementarianism and how like a wife can find comfort in the fact that her husband, she can influence her husband. Her husband makes the final decision. But if the husband messes up, then it's back on him. Like she doesn't have to worry that she makes a wrong decision, and so it takes a lot of the blame off her. I'm rabbit trailing right now, but that was a huge I think that's probably the first time my wife heard me take true accountability for my failure as a leader.
Well, I agree, Chris, and like typically men are the pursuers.
Yeah.
So, and which is doubly troubling because we are going to be held accountable for our wives as well, for how we've shepherded our wives and how we have led our wives.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have pursued our wives to satisfy our own selfish desires and cause them to sin in this way, it's doubly troubling.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I didn't make it easy on you, though. Sorry.
Yeah, that's one thing. Even with just this topic, just the physical aspect of a relationship, and one of the things that I counsel other young women when they're dating and such, I let them know, like, hey, I'm a very physical person, and I really like physical touch and that intimacy, and but as someone who, like, if you want to see that person honor God with their life and succeed, then you can't pursue it and you can't push for it. You have to respect them and wait. And it's really hard to do that if you're a very physically inclined person, because it's like, oh, it's a love language, physical touch, right? No, honor God and wait. And so I know, that yes, I contributed to our struggle, but at the same time, ultimately in the relationship, Alex has to kind of answer for, if we, ended up, having a kid and getting pregnant or something, well, we'd have to answer for that, and Alex would be the one sitting down with everybody going, okay, this is what's happened, and all those other things. So it definitely rests on the man's shoulders, but as women, we also need to pursue to love the person that we want to be in our life for the rest of our lives in a godly way. So.
Yeah. And backtracking, Alex, you said you were asking like singles like how to handle that, and the thing is, we live in a society where that wraps up a woman's worth in her beauty and her sexual nature, and a lot of times women don't understand their value outside of their body. Mm-hmm. And part of helping a woman come to realize who she is in the eyes of God will help redefine that and also help you reevaluate your intentions.
We set the bar. Mm-hmm. We can either nudge the relationship towards impurity, or we can hold up a pure standard, regardless of what the woman we're pursuing does.
Yeah, there was definitely a difference when we committed, and a difference in Laramie when he decided that we were going to be pure, and we were going to do it God's way, and I could tell a difference, and I feel like I didn't really necessarily change as much as what I was doing, but it was totally coming from him. It was totally a resolve, and it was very refreshing to me, and I felt more loved, during our engagement than I had before, even though I guess I deceived myself to think that we were closer because of it. I felt closer when we decided to remain pure, and I felt more loved by him, and that was really eye-opening to me, and something that I would love to share with women that are, struggling with that, or with their worth, their self-worth and stuff. So.
That
makes
is
a big
awesome.
difference.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Oh man. So it's almost 8 o'clock. Should we switch to chapter 4?
Oh, geez.
Don't forget we started late, so we have to go a little late as well.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh shucks.
But if anyone needs to leave, we're about 5 minutes away from an hour. You're free to go. But we're gonna keep going. I'm having fun again. What?
You said, are you trying to kick us out?
Heck yeah. That'll make me sad if everyone left, actually. I'll be like, Rachel, they're gone. Chris, too, because like, I'm tired of this. I don't care if you're my co-host. So chapter 4 is Wedding Bells.
Yes.
Wedding Bells. What do you guys think of chapter 4, Wedding Bells? Just basic thoughts.
I love chapter 4.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think it was the first chapter so far that just had me like captured. Like I couldn't stop reading it. You don't have to face it right now. Spotlight. It was fantastic.
Yeah. It was the best, my favorite chapter so far.
Yeah.
How about the single guys? What do you think about the wedding chapter?
I thought it was really good. Yeah, there were a couple images in it that were really cool, and just the images of Christ and stuff that he used in the chapter that I really enjoyed in it. And I mean, obviously, it made me really look forward to a wedding day, so that I could kind of more so understand the images. But yeah, it was really good.
How about you, Trevor?
I can talk, I swear. It was. Let me go to my notes. It's just gonna help. I liked a lot of the things he said, like how it's not a contract. It's something more than 50-50. It's more like 100% and 100% of two people coming together. I love that how he called men out on our how to fight our passiveness in a lot of things, and we have to be there in everything, to be active in the marriage, in our lives, in everything really, as godly men. And how this one spoke to me a lot, being single, is that God doesn't build you, he builds for you, and that takes time. We brought that up.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. I love... What?
Oh, I was going to say, it actually worked out really cool for Kara and I as well, because we were going to visit with the in-laws, and she had been reading that chapter on the way there, and it actually sparked a good long conversation about those kind of things and some struggles that like our in-laws were having as well, and we got to speak to them about the podcast and the group and the book, and just had some really cool discussion come from, especially like the covenant versus contract and things like that was really neat.
Yeah, I love that part. I love that part. Before we dive into that, one thing that I really liked, one picture I thought was amazing, was where he talks about how the wedding is the gospel, and specifically the part where when the doors open and the bride enters, and she's dressed as white, that she's considered spotless in this marriage. And he has a line where he says, "Every sinner who comes to Christ is spotless." That just by coming, there it is, yeah. The white dress is a reminder that every sinner who comes to the Savior is made spotless before His presence. That if the husband is a representative of Christ and the wife is a representative of the church, and regardless of the wife's past, she gets to come to the husband and make this covenant with him, white and spotless. You know, just spotless, and I guess pure. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's reflective of our salvation, that comes from Him, because, I've told her multiple times, and if we've had a fight or, there's whatever, that I'm not leaving. I don't care what happens. Like, I'm here till I die. And, we don't lose our salvation once we've been made clean. His righteousness is on us, and, the Holy Spirit is our down payment, that where He sealed us till He comes for us, and so our relationship and marriage is reflective of that, that this is a commitment that He's made. God made this covenant with us that He's going to sustain us. He's going to grow us into the image of His Son. Like He's going to do all these things for us, and the same way we should be washing our wives in the water of the Word and encouraging them and reminding them that this thing is real and it's forever.
Yeah. Our podcast grew out of a lot of what you just said, was our understanding of theology and our understanding that marriage is only a reflection of the gospel.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the only reason it exists, is to glorify God and to reflect the gospel. And if we look for it, it's there every single day. Every single day.
I think about it all the time. Like, there's passages in the scriptures that start out saying, "But God," and then it talks about the work that God did to intervene. When men are messing up and sinful and evil, and His redemptive plan. And so, even in thinking through things that have happened in our marriage and the struggles that we've had, I'm just constantly reminded, but God, like the only reason that Alex and I are sitting here is because God intervened. And sorry, I'm getting a little overwhelmed. It's just a blessing to see that He is faithful to us, and it's really encouraging to be His child. So. Okay.
Yeah. So in this,
That helps. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
No, I was gonna say it just helps. When you have good theology, that God reveals things to us, and the more that we see His goodness, the more we can reflect it in our relationships, and the more security we have, because we know that we're in His hands, and it's reassuring. The more we tap into Him, the more He gives, and in turn we give to our spouse, and it's like you said, it's beautiful, the way He takes care of everything, and it's for His glory, but we get to enjoy that, it's awesome.
Let's say there were times that's all we had. Like we would be like we don't feel God, we don't know if He's there, we don't really have support from our church. And we just had to ask, just have to say, but we know God is good, that He's brought us together, and that's all we could stand on sometimes.
Yeah.
Got us through. It was rough, but it got us through.
It's all we need to stand on.
Yeah.
So what does this contract versus covenant look like? He says the man promises to lead and sacrifice. The woman promises to trust and respect. This idea of submission and sacrifice is 100%, 100%. What does that look like for us? What does it look like for the husbands here to sacrifice 100% as they're part of the covenant? And for the wives, what does that look like for you in your role of submission and putting yourself 100% into this other covenant?
One thing for me is making a point of studying my wife. Like, I'm a fairly logical, book smart kind of guy, lacking in other areas. So, trying to live with my wife in an understanding way is trying to study her and figure out what makes her grow, like what she needs from me. Like, so one area specifically, to give an example, to flesh this out, might be how I can wash Amanda in the Word. Like, if I'm just sitting there reading scripture to Amanda, like, she's zoned out. She is hearing 1% of it. If I'm just like praying over Amanda, not sinking in, bouncing off her forehead. So like I've just learned this very recently, like we have a really great way of communicating, so we just need to have like super intense conversations So like each do our studying, like do our own thing, and then come together and like hash it out and edify each other and sharpen each other and like help each other think through something through a conversation. And this is something like that's weird to me. I said it, it's weird. But I've studied her and I've learned that this is how I can sacrifice for her, is not teach her the way I want to be taught. Like the way I want to be taught is just someone preaches, I listen and go, okay, got it. Doesn't work with Amanda. Like I know when she's making eye contact with me, when she's making eye contact with me, she's not listening to me. So I think the sacrifice is just studying your wife and doing things in a way that she needs them to be done for her in the way that she wants, not the way you want her to respond to you. That was a mouthful, but
That's good.
I can learn from that.
Yeah, we're a lot the same way. We've tried like just doing Bible studies together, like reading certain chapters or reading through things, and that just fizzles out. We've tried devotionals; they've all fizzled out. But it really just comes down to like a relational discussion and actually applying things that we learn to reality. And a lot of it too is we look at like relationships that we know of people around us, and we find the dysfunctions, and we check it with scripture, and we kind of like we analyze other people's problems and figure out what's wrong with them. And we grow a lot from it. It's really, oh yeah, they're having a failing marriage. This is what we don't do. Okay. But it's really cool. It's really cool, like watching my wife too, like hearing people make theological statements. And my wife will look at me and be like, "That's not right, is it?" Like, no. So, yeah, it's great to see the wisdom that she's gained.
That's awesome. What about you, Kyle and Kara? How does that look like in your marriage?
Well, that's a tough one. In fact, we had the conversation on the way home after she finished reading the chapter to me that she was very surprised to learn that I feel like I've failed in this area like crazy. I mean, just I haven't held my end of the bargain up a lot of times in our marriage. And she actually was surprised to hear that, which surprised me. I really thought that when we were reading that last part of chapter 4 about the leading and things like that, that she would be seeing those faults in me that I see, but she would not say that that was the case when we started having that discussion. It was really interesting to see how much of a failure I felt at that, but that she kind of reassured me that that's not really the case.
As far as me, I feel like my personality is... I have the utmost confidence in him, and he's always shown confidence, and I have complete and utter respect for him and the way that he leads, so it kind of took me by surprise that he didn't feel confident about that, because that is not the way that I view him. My personality is not one... I don't like to take the lead on things, and so the fact that he is the leader of our... I don't find it that difficult to submit to him and to want to submit to him, because I do trust him and respect him anyway. So, I don't know. I would trust him with anything that he told me. I'd trust him with my life and respect him. And so for me, the submitting part, I feel like it comes easier for me than maybe most women. I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah,
you're blessed.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, go back to the 50-50, 100-100 thing. Like, it's funny because my wife like has been like drilling this into like a couple that we're familiar with, and like pretty much telling them this is why your marriage is falling apart. It's because you guys are putting in 50-50 and worrying about what you're receiving.
Yeah.
And they're having a hard time receiving it. But you're ultimately going to fall apart if you're just worrying about what you're receiving. And the beauty of the 100%, if you're 100% devoted to loving this one person, and that other person is 100% devoted to loving you, and both of you don't worry at all about yourselves, you both are getting 100%.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost a paradox. You're like depriving yourself, but still getting fulfilled. It's only God could have thought of that.
Yeah.
Man could have never, like, I am far too stupid to ever think of something of that nature.
And I just think about how scary it would be if Christ had only done 50% of the work and I had to do the other 50%. It would be it's impossible.
Yeah.
All right, I'm mostly dead. Now you also have to be mostly dead. And we'll rise together. It'll be good. It'll be good then.
You raise yourself.
Yeah, you raise yourself. Get at least halfway raised, and then I'll pull you the other half.
Yeah. Theology matters.
That's a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Beautiful picture. Man, I like that point too, where you said that you feel like you're really deficient in this area, because I feel the same way. She's always like, "Why do you feel that way?" And I'm vulnerable. There's this book called For Men Only, and it kind of talks about the way women think in general. It's clearly generalized, but they did it based off of I recommend this book to anyone. It's a great conversation starter, if nothing else. And the very last chapter, they asked all the women who took the survey, which was tens of thousands of women, what would you, like, it was basically a write-in, what would you say to your husband if you could say one thing to him? And basically, almost every single woman said, thousands of women, almost every single woman said, "He's my hero, and I wish he understood that I'm so proud of what he does for us and our family." And I read that recently. I read it way before we got married, and I just was kind of rereading the book recently to kind of prep some topics for the cast. And I got to that chapter, and I was just like in tears, because Rachel says that to me in so many ways all the time, just how proud she is of me, how encouraged she is by the way I lead us, and how much she trusts me. And so I'm really glad you brought that up, Kyle, because I'm glad you were able to talk about that, because that's one thing, me as a husband, I feel consistently as a failure. I don't know if I'm alone.
Yeah. I feel like as soon as I feel confident in what I'm doing, I just get smashed over the head with a failure. Like, just a blatant failure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Christ set the bar so high, you know?
You gotta be like Christ. Oh, no, I don't do that at all.
Yeah.
But there's also something to be said about a wife who can lovingly call you out. And my wife is brilliant at calling me out. And no, but like there's been so many times where like 3 months down the road, I finally listened to her, and I'm like, damn it, why didn't I listen to you like 3 months ago? Like, our life would have been so much easier. And so I think there's, as a husband, it's hard as a leader, because it almost feels like taking advice is submitting.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's still the wife's role to have a word in everything and have a say in anything. And my wife does a great job of letting me know when I'm an ass. Like, very good job.
Well, and the definition of sacrifice, right, is giving yourself up.
Yeah.
I think part of that is listening.
Yeah, and our relationship, once again, like we said earlier, it's a reflection of our relationship with the Lord and what He's done for us, and God hears our cries and concerns, and just like we need to listen to our wives with their concerns. Obviously God is infallible and knows everything, so He doesn't make mistakes, and He doesn't need to listen to our advice. But the concerns that are made on behalf of our wives need to be taken into consideration every time. I mean, that's the way you properly lead, is by knowing the cares and wants and everything of your spouse. That way every decision is, it makes it easier for them to submit when they know that they're heard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing that I've seen, even just in the last year, Alex has gotten better and better at, instead of kind of just picking a direction and going there. Like, we talk about things a lot more, and so there's room for me to kind of give my opinion and discuss things with him without it being like that I have to kind of force him to hear it. And so because he approaches me first, it gives me freedom to be able to say those things, and then I can trust that, you know, he's going to make the best decision that he needs to make, and whatever that decision is. And that's given me a lot of freedom and really encouraged me in our relationship to be able to trust him more, because it makes it, in a sense, safer for me to discuss things with him without it being like, oh, this is going to lead to an argument. But that's something that, before a year ago, it would probably be something where I'd be like, oh man, this is probably really not smart, or this is really gonna, hurt this other person, or maybe we should talk to this person about this thing, and then I'd have to kind of approach him about it. But now, because our communication has continued to grow and grow, all those things are now under this umbrella where, like, we're discussing all these things beforehand, and so I'm included in all of it, and so. I can only hope that that continues to get even better. So.
I let her overrule me too. Sometimes I'll come up with like an idea. Yeah, I'll come up with like an idea. You're like, well, what about this? And I'll go, that's a good point. I should abandon that, or we should go in this other direction.
Mm-hmm.
We try to be very open about that.
Yeah, it's funny. We're like the opposite of you guys. I take forever to like make decisions, and it works out well for the cast because like. Alex will go and jump on something when I feel like I have to think on it forever. But yeah, my wife's like, let's do it now, and then I'm very let me think through it, let me pray about it, but I take too much time. I take way too much time, and I lose opportunities, and I second guess myself a lot. So there's so many cool ways that two people can complement each other. Mm-hmm. And it even happens in my marriage
you're
sometimes.
Saying the words that are in my brain.
Really? See, I told you. I think I told Alec. No, I said this to you that you're my Canadian counterpart.
Canadian Chris.
Can I just say that if you're someone who's really quick at making decisions, obviously this is what we're gonna do, and then your partner is like, well, I think we need to just calm down and think on it for a couple of years. It's like,
yeah.
There's definitely a middle ground.
See, our counselor had a good word for that, and he said there's people that are kites and there's people that are anchors. And he said the problem with us when we were dating was that we were both kites. We both would just just without any reason go and do something. And then I swung the pendulum way over, and now I'm a super anchor. So, and Alex is a kite. I'm the anchor.
Shifty eyes, I saw that. So he talks about, let's see if there's a section. Oh, he talks about community rejoicing. I like it, and this is where he talks about mother-in-laws. The book finally caught up to me.
Mother-in-laws!
But he talks about how all the other people, and you see this kind of throughout Song of Songs, that, excuse me, that people are rejoicing in this relationship. They're excited about it. They like Solomon, they like her, and they're happy that these two people are getting together, and they want them to be together. Do you think, well, a couple of things. Do you think that we, as a society, kind of do this, that we celebrate this coming together? And he talks about, that even the church rejoices. And then, do you feel that most of the weddings that happen, experience that where the people are coming in and rejoicing over this marriage?
I think some people do. I mean, last time I was down in Texas, it was for a wedding, and it was very much that. It was two people celebrating the coming together of two people that they knew, like, not that God had brought them together and they were the only ones, obviously, but God was going to bless this marriage. They were both very godly people. They were both trying very hard. And the community surrounded them, the family surrounded them, and blessed upon them the entire marriage. They really did, as much as could, So, yeah, I think it still happens. I don't know if it's the societal norm, but I know it still happens.
Yeah, I've definitely seen both. I've seen both in believing families and unbelieving families. Like I've seen a lot of the marriages where like people are mourning that they're getting married. Like it's the ball and chain type thing, and like I can't believe I'm doing this, and this is the worst decision I've ever made type stuff. So like I've seen that, like where it's really just really sad, but then I've seen people who are like, this is awesome, we're rejoicing in marriage. So even if they don't believe in the gospel, they still see marriage as a good thing. So I've seen both in our culture.
Yeah, I think our culture really swings both ways, and I think they swing to the extreme of like self-glorification, kind of like where these grotesquely like extravagant weddings, but then there's a lot of people that just like, we'll go down to the courthouse.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's a lot of abuse there too. I feel like, I don't know, this is kind of rabbit trailing, but I feel like I almost feel like the government shouldn't be involved in marriage. I don't think we should have to register with the state as marriage, and so therefore people get married for the sole purpose of their tax benefits or for citizenship or things of that nature, and so it undermines the sanctity of marriage. It undermines what marriage. Institution of marriage. And then I see a lot of people like with these huge extravagant weddings that I don't even understand why they're getting married. You already live together, you act as a married couple, you don't believe in God, therefore what is your purpose for getting married? Just so it's like harder to get divorced, like it's harder to break up? Is that I don't understand. I'm still trying to wrap my head around why people get married if they're unbelievers. What the point of it is.
I think people pick and choose what they like out of the Bible, and that's kind of why people get married. A lot of times, or they'll hold their moral standards to certain parts of the Bible. So it's like, that I think that's kind of the reason people still do get married, because they feel some moral sense of what's right and wrong, and they make their own standards, and marriage is one of those things, that they're like, well, this is one thing I'm willing to submit to. I may not submit to God in who he is and all these other, things he's called me to, but this one I'm willing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of it, though, is like a self-centered want of
Say it into the microphone.
Oh, sorry. You want your day. The microphone, okay. The microphone's in his ear, so. You want, and I can say this, I was old enough when I got saved that I had, my grand romantic dreams of getting married, and 90% of that
Was not me.
was wearing a beautiful dress, having people give you gifts, having beautiful pictures taken of you, and it's not at all like, you don't go into it thinking like, I want a marriage. You want that wedding day.
Yeah.
It's your special day, it's drilled into your head as a young girl, and it's hard to.
It's about the woman.
And if someone were to say to me like, yeah, but why do you want to be married? I would have said like, I want a wedding. Like, I wasn't thinking of the marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did something really special at our ceremony, which I think it's funny. A lot of people like they just want to get through the ceremony part. I mean, in the world sense, to get to the reception and be able to party and celebrate, I guess. But we were able to wash each other's feet during our ceremony, and it was a really powerful and special moment. And we had all of our family and friends there, and a lot of our family's unsaved. And we got so many people come to us after and say that, that was the most beautiful ceremony. There was something about it, that they just couldn't put their fingers on. And I think when we truly understand what marriage is, it's a representation of God, of Christ and his bridegroom, that we do rejoice in it. And it does mean so much more to us. And, we're not afraid of, we know two people are committed to Christ and they're committed to each other, and there's no fear of, we'll see if it works out and we'll see how they are a few years down the road. I mean, you want to be happy for people, but you just never know. Marriage is difficult, and if you don't have Christ, it's more than likely 50% chance, probably more now, not going to last. So it's, I think there's that feeling in there too, but it's just kind of neat to see unsafe people react the way they were touched and moved by, representing Christ in our wedding, and that was pretty neat.
That's awesome.
It was cool. Last night we were with my aunt and uncle-in-law, and for whatever reason, they popped in their wedding video from like the 80s. It was hysterical, but it was sad because all the couples in the wedding, like in the ceremony, they would pan through all the people, and they were like, oh, they're not together, they're not together, they're not together, and it was really sad. I forget where exactly I was going with this, but it was
somewhere excellent. We believe you.
Yeah.
Well, so I was actually talking with I have a few female friends, and we were talking about that the other day. They had been watching their wedding video, and they were just in awe watching it, thinking like, I can't believe how many of these people are no longer married. And they had only been married, like, we're not talking 80s, we're talking within the past decade, and more than half, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. More than half of the people in their wedding video are now divorced. So.
You want to know something cool? Is my wife's not in the room, so I can say this. My in-laws are agnostic at best. And when we first got married, they didn't like me. I'm pretty sure they didn't think it would last. But we're starting to get over this hump where everyone's relationships are in shambles except for ours, and they're starting. But they're coming to us for advice now, and we're one of the youngest in the family at this point, aside from her little sister. And so we're actually able to give advice, and from a gospel-centered advice, and they're listening. They have no answer to it because the proof is in the pudding. But so it's this really cool thing that we're within maybe the last month or so that we're the last 6 months maybe that we've been really experiencing. So it's cool just to like see all this perseverance like coming to a head and really influencing her family.
I think with the celebration thing, it really strikes me as there's two different types of celebration. There are the people who are celebrating the marriage, like that actual covenantal marriage, and there are people who are celebrating the wedding and the ceremony and that event that is happening, and not really, it's not a true celebration of those two people becoming one. And making that commitment to each other. They're just celebrating the fact that they made it to that day. And so I think that there is a lot of celebration, but not all of it is celebration that is good for that couple, that they're kind of just there to get their party on at the reception as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah, that's why people ask if there's an open bar.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, that made me kind of sad. Just thinking of all the people I've seen are like, yeah, that's the point. Is not to celebrate the marriage, but to celebrate the wedding for most people. And you put that beautifully, but it really made that truth ring inside me in a way that made me really sad.
It is sad, absolutely.
Yeah.
So on a happier topic, let's talk about a man's passivity. Now this is where he really goes at the end of the wedding chapter, and his big period on it, and how he says men are called to sacrificially lead. He spends a lot of time talking about that, and then he says though that passivity is typically characterized by a refusal to step into what God has called a man to do. And he goes on to say that the greatest fight of a man's life will be rejecting the passivity that has infected our heart since the fall. I guess a couple things I think about that. What does that look like not to be passive for men? Where maybe do you struggle with passivity? And wives, how do you encourage your husband not to be passive without just nagging him?
So I find that Chad really responds well if I'm just super blunt with him, which is bizarre to me because if he were to be really blunt with me, I'd probably cry.
Oh yeah.
But so I think that might, with him, it's like I just need to tell him, like, listen, this is what's happening, and you need to stop it.
I love when she does that. Then I don't have to like decipher anything that she says.
Yeah, if I ever try to talk to him like how I want to be talked to, he's like, I don't understand. So,
And if I ever talk to her the way I want to be talked to, it's like I crush her.
we end up in marriage counseling.
It's so bad. But
That's too.
Passivity, though, I think a big thing in that is, especially in fights, like arguments or disagreements, the man needs to not be passive in apologizing. And again, I'm going to say some things that I think are like controversial to the world, but I think you guys will understand like where my heart is and where I'm coming from. But typically, women can be emotional. Surprise. And like that means that we as men sometimes need to just bite the bullet and act and like begin the reconciliation. Like, I'm not saying take a dive because that's a worldly pile of crap, but like begin the process of reconciliation. And that's a really hard thing to do, and it might feel like you're getting dumped on, but sometimes, all the time, you need to do it. And I think that falls on us because I think it's easy for me to keep my mouth shut and then just have silence. I feel like I sometimes have to open my mouth first, and it's hard. And it sucks, and I don't want to do it because I want her to come to me. But
yeah,
I can't be passive.
The passivity, I mean, I think it speaks to our, I guess, reverence for God's word and how it's truly the authority in our lives. Because if it truly is at all times, then we won't have to worry about apologizing to our wives or always looking to God's word as, what does He say about this? Because it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. Am I loving my wife like Christ loves the church? That's always the thing I ask myself. And I mean, she'll tell you I apologize to her all the time. Not always when I need to, but it always comes around. But I think that's the passivity thing is, are we truly setting that standard in our home that Christ has the final say in this? And as a leader, are we submitting to that? Because when we do, then passivity isn't an issue because it's not about me being passive. It's about me honoring God with our marriage. So I think that's the key to it. Do we truly believe what God says in His Word? And obviously, we all believe that, but we all,
Are we acting?
we don't always act upon it.
I'm kind of smiling. Chad was talking. What were you thinking? Nothing?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I was just enjoying all you beautiful people. And I was watching Chris fix his hair.
It was the headphone.
Yeah.
Drive me crazy.
Sorry.
Alex doesn't have that problem.
No, he doesn't.
I gotta groom my beard though during that.
He has the important stuff.
Oh.
Explicit.
There are singles here, guys.
Yeah. Put the beards away. Put the beards away. We have a joke. Actually, a friend of ours who's single did this to us, where when we were dating, I leaned over and I gave her a little kiss on the cheek, and he was a single guy, and he looked at me, he's like, dude, don't eat bread in front of the starving. I always think about that.
Sorry, single people.
Sorry. So, Andrew, how do you battle passivity? You're not married, but there's still the tendency in a man to not want to do stuff, Like, I just wish I didn't have to do any of this.
I mean, every day I just feel like, obviously, it's being single, it's a little bit different, but every day I fight, I have the urge to just not do anything. I would love to just sit on my couch and do nothing all day, every day. I don't know, obviously I feel convicted about that, and so there's just so many different things that the Lord has just called me to, or He's convicted me of, to the point of needing to do things and actually get up and fight my passivity, because it's there and it's very prevalent in my life. And so I don't know, I guess conviction is the best way that I've been fighting it, and just continuing to read the Word as well and just surround myself with that.
Well, and it's kind of like if you give in to that passivity now as a single person, it's not going to just miraculously change when you enter into a marriage.
Yeah, and that's obviously another thing. Is it's like, it's a motivation for me as well. It's like, I understand that it's going to be a lot easier for me to fight some things now, being single, when I don't have to worry about leading someone. And so, there's also that motivation as well, and just wanting to be a godly husband whenever that time comes around. So, yeah.
Well, there's also an aspect of when you get married. There's kind of a, I wish I had a better word, but kind of a weight of responsibility that as a single person you just don't have. That is very helpful in overcoming passivity at times, not always. But there is that extra weight of, when you're single, you're like, I'm not doing this. Well, I should be doing it, but I'm gonna do something else instead. When you're married, it's like, oh, I really need to be doing this. I should be doing this, but well, if I don't, my wife doesn't eat or something. I better go do this.
How do you become unsingle if you're not passive? Wait a second. Oh man. How do you become? How do you find a partner if you're being passive? And then, but I think God blesses us, like the pursuers, men, whoever, and in new relationships with like a feeling, like a drive, like a fuel that sends you after your partner, whoever you're pursuing. But in a marriage, that feeling can go away. Surprise! Again. But it's like you can't be passive. You gotta pursue your wife. She needs to be pursued. She wants to be pursued, and God designed us that way, even if we don't feel like it. And I think that proper emotion will precede or follow proper action.
Agreed.
How about you, Trevor? How do you took some notes? How do you battle passivity?
it's kind of weird for me. My brain has two modes, off and 11. That's all. I don't have anything else on this amp. So, but I would like to state that there's a difference between being passive about something and, like, it's not being active, but it's to rest on something. And in my life right now, I'm not called by God to be actively searching for my mate. I'm just not. It's not what I'm doing. I'm on 0 on that. But I am trying to better myself for that day. I'm trying to become the best me I can be before we meet. If you will.
You're trying to find your best life now.
No, I'm trying to become the best me I can
I didn't want to say it first.
be. Before we
Chris
meet.
took the fall for us.
No, I get it. You're saying you want to you want to develop yourself to be the man worthy of being a woman's husband and kind of develop some things in your life and prepare some foundation so that you kind of have a more developed maybe home for her to come into. Does that sound right? But now that you're being passive, but you're not, like you said, you're not actively searching for a relationship. You're being active in other aspects of it.
Yeah.
Well, that just sounds like the opposite of passivity.
Yeah.
No, that's all well and good. I remember a guy said one time, like, instead of, like, he had his world rocked. He said, instead of pursuing the girl that I want, I'm, making myself the man a girl will want to find.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's not being passive, it's being active. It's just taking the focus off of what you want and putting it on what you need to be, what God desires of you.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've told that to a lot of people, is like stop worrying about the wife you're trying to find and worry about becoming the husband for, becoming the husband for the right wife.
Right.
I just repeated what Chad said in different words. I just wanted to acknowledge that I said it too. He is, in fact, my Canadian counterpart. Yeah.
I think you said it in less time, so you
That
went.
was long-winded, and you were able to just very succinctly, the word I'm going for
Yes.
here, very succinctly say what he had said.
Yes.
We're eloquent.
So it's been about an hour and 45 minutes, and we're kind of at the end of Chapter 4. Does anyone have anything else they wanted to bring up about either Chapter 3 or Chapter 4 that maybe we skipped over or thought you didn't feel like you get to say?
I feel like
really
I said
liked-
too much, but
I really like that. Stop it. I
Oh,
really like
bad
that
timing.
He said several times, I think it was in chapter 3, like, it's not a marriage is not a, or maybe it was chapter 4, I don't know. It's not a contract, it's a covenant. And he said that, like, multiple times, did he not?
Yeah.
And so you're reading and you're reading and you're reading and he's saying it over and over and over again, and it really drove it home how important those vows are. And I'd never really thought of it like that. Like, yeah, it totally is a covenant. Contract. No, covenant. I just learned something about my marriage. Covenant. Not a contract.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a covenant, not a contract.
Tell him.
Covenant, not a contract.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Excellent.
Dad, I'm calling your elders.
Oh, okay.
I liked how he talked about male passivity, but I did kind of wish that he could have gone more into like how men struggle with passivity and how women struggle with being submissive. But I guess he was coming from his point of view, so he talked about what he knew. But I really like what a pastor that Laramie listens to, Vodi Bakum, says about submission, and that really helped me because it didn't, even though I'm I tend to be a passive person and kind of an observer, and I thought submission would come very easily to me in marriage, and it didn't really come easily. I realized that I'm just really quiet about not listening to somebody and quiet about just doing my own thing, and pretty stubborn about stuff that I feel strongly about. So, I mean, that was something I kind of wish had been talked about a little bit more, but
Yeah, me too.
I agree with that. I don't feel he spoke about the woman's struggle much at all
Yeah.
in that chapter, and that seemed like a huge oversight to me.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah, I wish I could have got more from the women's perspective on that too.
Yeah. Does anyone know of any good resources on that? Because I don't.
That sermon, I don't know, Bodhi Bacham talks about submission, and he talks about Ephesians 5 and 6 about
Family order.
Yeah, like children to parents, wives to husbands, servants to masters, and that really helped me a lot.
Matt Chandler also did a series on the roles of men and women that I thought was really good as well.
I've heard that one. I think I've heard both of those. I have to say, I now that you mention it, Kyle, I'm remembering that sermon series, The Roles of Men and Women, and I remember it being fantastic.
Yeah.
Which again is another reason, like, well, why didn't he bring some of that into the book?
Yeah, very true.
I know my
We'll
wife.
have to see if it's in one of the later chapters.
That's what I was wondering
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I was trying to like flip through the end and see. I don't.
No, don't do that.
Oh, gee.
No,
Don't
I'm
cheat.
not. I'm just looking at the headlines. But,
The next chapter.
Yeah.
that's all I've been doing this whole time, anyways. But no, my wife just picked up this book called The Unveiled Wife, and I think it touches on that a really good deal. So I'll come back when she reads it and let you know.
Well, if the book doesn't touch on the that aspect of marriage, we can always just do an extra special podcast, or not podcast, but call, hangout. Hangout is the word I'm looking for. At the end, when all the women can chime in and talk about it.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So hopefully he talks about it, but if not, we'll find a way to talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
Spoilers, it looks like he does in chapter 7.
Oh, okay. Well done, Trevor. Well done. Why
He's
did you wait
reading
till chapter
handy for once.
That's what I was trying to do, Trevor. Logs on the fire. Alright.
Alright, I'm not gonna skip ahead.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys.
That's next week then, right?
Yeah, thank you.
No,
Next week
five
is
and six.
5 and 6,
Okay, for 2 weeks.
which is
We get
the
to talk
sex
about sex
chapter.
next week.
Next
Yeah.
chapter.
next chapter, so that'll be fun.
Bagel, don't be scared.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. I don't know. This is a book. Keep in mind too that this is a book written specifically for people who have questions about dating and relationships. So like, I imagine he does it. He's gonna have that conversation in a God honoring way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys remember when Mark Driscoll's book came out, but there was specifically one chapter where he just dives into sex, like basically like, what can we do, what can't we do, and he like explains things in detail, and people really gave him a lot of crap for that. And I haven't heard any of that for this book.
Cool.
Yeah, I do plan to read that book. So the next 2 chapters are Sex, which is called And the Two Become One Flesh, and Fighting Fair, which is going to be, that's going to be a fun one. I think for sure both of those are going to be fun conversations next week.
Yeah. We might want to start going chapter by chapter instead of double.
Yeah, we'll probably definitely go along next week too.
Yeah.
That's okay.
We'll never get through books if we only do one chapter. Though.
That's true. That's true. This is a short book, but most books aren't going to be this short.
Yeah. What's our next book? Do we have our next book thought out yet?
I'm going to take a little bit of a break.
1 week.
No breaks.
We'll talk about it. We'll how about this? If you have a particular book you would like to read, let's make a thread and start talking about like books we'd like to maybe read together and discuss, and we can kind of vote on it as this heads to a close.
Yeah. Down like a clown, Charlie Brown.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been amazing again. I've had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was good.
Awesome. And
Thank you for having me, even though I don't know why I'm here.
Huh?
Are they saying bye?
Yeah.
You didn't read it.
It's okay.
You don't even go here.
I don't even go here.
Chad's like, she told me we were going to watch a baseball game, and this is not baseball at all. All right, guys.
All right, guys. So reform your theology, reform your marriage.
Buy your wife some tulips.
Yeah.